Sorry, I'm going to make sure that was.
Okay, so you're both on screen.
Okay. If you want, I can.
All right, well, welcome to another Reef Talk. My name is Kater Heine, representing Malama Kai Foundation. Tonight we have guest speakers Karlee and Kelleigh with Hawaii Island Hawksbill Project. So we'll learn all about the hawksbills on Big Island and we'll touch a little bit on Maui.
Just a little.
Just a little bit, okay. Thank you for joining us.
All right, like Kater said that I'm Karlee and this is Kelleigh. I am the assistant on the project. Kelleigh is the lead. This was my opportunity to do a little bit of outreach and teach people about the project. We don't really get to do it that much because we're out in the field 24/7, so we were really excited to do this. But our presentation's on the Honuʻea and the Kaʻu Coast. Don't mind me, this is on my phone. Before we start, we like to say thank you or a big mahalo to our sponsors and our collaborators. We would not be able to do what we do without them. So this is everyone that we're sort of like a melting pot of all the agencies and organizations, and this is who all helps us be the Hawksbill Project.
So my name is Kelleigh, and so I'm originally from Flower Mound, Texas, but I have been working on the project for the last 3 years. And I originally went to CNF Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas. And yeah, gets us a little bit. Oh, and I've had some turtle work in Texas as well, working on Padre Island.
And again, introducing yourselves. I'm Karlee. I'm from northwestern Pennsylvania. I grew up very inland, not near the ocean. So growing up, I have this like intense interest in the ocean since I never really went that much. But then I was even more landlocked, and I went to the University of Central Missouri to get my undergrad in wildlife and natural resources conservation. And then after that, I got an internship in North Carolina working with loggerheads. Fell in love with this type of work, and after I graduated, I also ended up working at Texas, and I worked with Kemps Ridley's. And I have been on the project for about a year and a half now. So, other than Kelleigh and I, who else is on our team? Lucky enough, the NPS provides us with about 6 federal volunteers a season. Well, actually 12 a season. We have 6 in the summer and then 6 in the fall. This summer session we have 5, and this is a group pictures of like all of us like working together so far this season. We love them. They've been a great group, and we're really lucky to have them. They'll actually be leaving in a couple weeks, and then we're getting our fall session, and they'll be here till December. So before we want to talk about the hawksbills, we want to jump into the greens a little bit because a lot of people get the two confused. They're super similar. So we really like to help people identify the difference, because if you guys do see a hawksbill, it's very rare, and we really like it if people report that. So the Honuʻea versus the Honu. So the Hawaiian word for hawksbill is Honuʻea, and green is Honu, or turtle is Honu. So ways to tell the difference between the two, and this is up close, so if you guys are like scuba diving or just snorkeling, it's very easy to see that these hawksbills, they have 4 prefrontal scales, so 1, 2, 3, 4 on their forehead, and then the greens have only 2, so 2 large prefrontal scales. And then another way, this is the most obvious way to me, is that they have this very sharp beak. That's why they're called the hawksbills. And then the greens have a very flat and reduced beak. And then also size. Once hawksbills reach maturity, they're up to 150 pounds, and then the greens are like 300 pounds. But the majority of the greens that you guys see here are juveniles or subadults, so they kind of look similar in size. So that's why we're always not like looking at the size for identification. A little bit more about the greens is they also don't nest here. They'll bask here, and they forage here. They mostly nest on the French Frigate Shoals up in the northwestern islands, and they have about 600 individuals nesting a season. But this is a picture of them up on French Frigate Shoals basking. It's a very unique behavior here in the Hawaiian Islands, so it's a very cool thing to see if you do see a green basking.
All right, so a little bit about our project history. So we started in around 1987, and until the early 90s, we were doing surveys along the southern coast of this island to distinguish nesting habitat for the hawksbills. And so, but we started tagging hawksbills in 1991, and so we've been tagging them since then for the last 31 years. And right now we have about over 180 females we've tagged. And we've got about 13 beaches we monitor along the southern coast of the island. So we're very much spread, very thin, but we have multiple beaches that we go and hike to, camp at, which we will get into.
Yes. So we monitor 13 beaches along all the way from the other side of South Point, road to the sea, all the way up into the national park. And these are just strategically pocket beaches that these turtles like to nest on.
Yeah.
They're very sneaky. So some of our objectives on this project are to identify the nesting hawksbills and collect baseline data, and we'll get in a little bit into that. We manage and protect these nesting habitats because they're very fragile.
And rare.
Yes, very fragile and rare, and we'll show you in slides coming up about just how fragile these beaches are. And then we also protect the nest and ensure that the hatchlings make it to the ocean, and control the non-native invasive species that predate on these nests and the hatchlings. And then we also do stuff like this, where we promote outreach and public stewardship towards their ecosystems and the turtles themselves. And this picture was taken at Holiday, one of our nesting beaches. Go ahead.
So just a little bit, we've got, these are critically endangered species, and compared to the greens, which we said earlier, they're about 600 nesting per season. With the Honuʻea, there's only about 15 to 20 nesting per season. So there is a great difference in the nesting population. The Honuʻea also is primarily feed on sponges, which makes this unique for them. It actually can cause a toxicity towards humans, also towards other animals. But and then the Honu, the greens specifically, will eat algae, lemur, more like vegetation in the ocean. And then hawksbills are known for their very beautiful, ornate shells, and they actually have been harvested over the years, and that's a huge impact on why the numbers have dwindled so harshly. And yeah.
So those pretty sunglasses or bracelets that you have that are like tortoise shell, I'm not saying that they are now, but they could have been in the past been made out of hawksbill shells.
Yes.
A little bit more about the Honuʻea and their nesting. This is where we come in. This is what we do. We do nesting ecology on hawksbill sea turtles. So they nest every 2 to 3 years, and a lot of that's resource dependent. So in their off years, they'll go forage, build up the energy to be able to lay all of these nests, because they'll nest 3 to 5 times a season. So they'll come back every 2 to 3 years, and then they'll nest 3 to 5 times. And then each of those nests there's about 200 eggs. Earlier this season, we had to relocate a nest because it was laid below the high tide line. So it is prone to being washed over, and then therefore it won't incubate. And we relocated 239 eggs, and it hurt my back really bad.
That was a lot of eggs.
Yeah. And then they'll come back on a 15 to 20 day interval. So the hawksbills essentially create our schedule, because once we observe a nesting female, we'll be able to calculate when she'll come back up and when we need to go back to that beach to see her again. Because we try to observe every single nest, because they're very good at covering these nests, and we'll show you in the later slides. So to hit that first objective that I brought up about identifying hawksbill nesting activity and collecting that baseline data. So what we do is we go out to the beaches and we monitor all throughout the night, and because hawksbills only nest at night. So when they do come up, we are collecting times and we're collecting weather conditions. And after we see her lay her eggs, or if she does do this thing called false crawl, where the conditions just aren't fit for her to nest, either it's super rocky, the sand just keeps collapsing on her, it's very rooty, a lot of things.
Disturbances.
Yeah, she gets spooked. They'll false crawl, and then we'll still try to collect that data while she's returning. But what we do is we insert tags for identification. We have PIT tags, which are passive integrated transponders. It's like about the size of a rice grain, and it's like kind of like a microchip for your dog and cat at the vet. So we have this fancy machine that will insert the tag, and then we can read it. It just scans, and that way we have her identification, and we can ID her in later seasons, which is really cool. We'll have a lot of returnees. And then we put incontinal tags, which are metal flipper tags, and we actually have some, and we can pass them around to show you how. So we'll put them on their flippers. Okay, I guess they're hind flippers. And that's a sort of external identification for us, because y'all work with Cheryl King, and she does the facial skills. This is the type of identification we do, is the tags. So this is external tags, and they each have 2 letters and 4 numbers. Just every single one is unique. Yeah. And then we collect measurements of her shell to see how much she's growing. So this picture right here is showing a soft measuring tape, and we'll measure the length and the width of her carapace, which is the top shell. And then we'll use these long, straight ones to do a straight measurement of the same exact, the length and the width. These are mini compared to what we use. The ones that we use are about as tall as us.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then like I said, we also collect the weather conditions about the tides, and this is just data that we collect to see if these things influence them to come up, or if they think that it's more suitable to nest during these times. And then we collect biopsies, DNA. It's a little more accurate sometimes to just collect those, and then we send them off to NOAA. Mm-hmm. And then they keep them in the records for us, so we can identify the females every 2 to 3 years. Like we said, they come back every 2 to 3 years. Okay.
Yeah, so getting into kind of the whole, what we're looking for and kind of like what we see. So a lot of these videos and everything that we have, this is with night vision, because we try to watch them from very far away, because hawksbills are known to be a little bit more skittish than other species. And also we do use red light, so hopefully it shows up very well out here, but white light we try not to minimize while we're out in the field. So red light is something we specifically use. But so what happens is, in the middle of the night, hawksbills typically nest at night. Some of our pictures are during the day. That's very, very rare. But so we wait, and we'll either find tracks, or sometimes we're looking through our night vision and we actually see them emerge. So this is a video of just her walking. And so what they're doing, they're trying to find suitable habitat. In this video also is a good showing, we actually have a lot of beaches that are being caused erosion. And so it's making their coming up to nest a little more difficult. Sometimes they're causing the erosion because they're trying to climb hills. But in the background, you can kind of see roots exposed from this beach erosion as well.
So yeah, they'll just crawl around and try to find a spot that is easiest for them to dig, and a lot of times they'll abandon that because there's rocks, roots, vegetation.
They can tend to be a little picky sometimes.
But yeah, this is one of our hawksbills. She's satellite tagged. We'll get to satellite tagging, but yeah, she was crawling around for quite some time, but this is just her trying to find the spot that's just right.
We get a little excited with the shaky video. And we do also scan, because we do have greens that do bask or come up at night and take some naps at night. So we just occasionally take some looks to make sure they're greens and not hawksbills.
Yeah. Sometimes when we go to work up the hawksbills, we have to like jump over the greens because we're like running over to the turtle and we're like tripping on greens because they're just everywhere.
So once she does find a suitable area, the next thing she's going to do is dig her nest chamber with her hind flippers. So these are videos of her just digging out the sand. It's really awesome to see, as in she's very, very careful. In this the video with the red light, you can actually see her cupping the sand and tossing it out. And this can take a while. Sometimes it takes 45 minutes. Sometimes we're watching her dig for hours and hours. It really comes down to the individual. And so what we look for is when we see sand flipping. So that tells us that she's digging and we can stay far away and we don't have to disturb her at all. Question?
Do hawksbills not dig a body pit the way greens and leatherbacks do?
That's a great question. So hawksbills, some of the individuals, we do see them kind of moving things around, but for the most part, they're not dramatic in their body pits. A lot of times we just have females that come up and just start digging a hole. But some individuals do kind of move the sand around and you do see them kind of scooting around with the body pit. But yeah, it's kind of like an individual thing for them. They're very, very sneaky. They're very, as in like, they're known for their camouflage. So they're very good at also hiding the nest, where greens are like, this is where it's at. It's really quite obvious. It kind of looks like a tank came through, where sometimes we don't have a lot to go on. So it's also why it's really important for us to be there when she nests, because she'll do, when we get into covering, she can be very, very dramatic about it and make very, very long distances between where she actually nested versus where she leaves, which makes it very, very tricky for us.
Yeah, we watch these videos all day long.
Yeah.
They're so cute.
The cutest thing is those back flippers. I don't know if it's on.
I don't think it is, but I think it's just a longer video.
So a lot of times when we are at night, we have to use our other senses too, because sometimes red light we can't see very well, and we'll actually hear her or even smell her before we actually see her. I've smelled females before. I'm like, she's here. They don't smell good.
Call it our turtle senses,
Yeah.
but she stinks.
And then yeah, this video you can see her kind of cupping that sand out.
Yes, very, very cute.
And then this is, once she digs far enough, she is going to lay her eggs. So this is a video of her laying her eggs. Like we said earlier, it's about 200 and they're about the size of a ping pong ball. So if you can imagine, it varies too. They tend to be more shallow nesters compared to other species of turtles, which we'll get into why that's kind of an issue here. But yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if anyone saw it.
Another quick video.
No, it's
All right, and then that process is also pretty quick. And then once she's finished laying, she'll start covering. And like I said, she's very, very good at camouflaging. So she'll cover with her back flippers, which is this video here. And then once she actually will cover with her back flippers for a while, she pats it down really nice. And what she'll do next is she'll actually start front flipper covering. She'll actually use her front flippers to cover behind her. It's really kind of amazing because even when we've seen nests and she does a front flipper covering, sometimes they do it right in front of it. I've seen them move a little bit, do some more, move a little bit further, do some more. It's kind of incredible. Even if we're there to see where the nest is after she leaves, even when we come back, I'm like, I think it was here. They're really great at camouflaging where that nest is. And then after she's done covering, this is a great video. That blue thing on her back is a satellite tag, and she's just booking it out of here.
They get tired of us.
Yeah.
Stinking
Also, it's a
humans.
lot of energy, right? To come up out of the water, look for a suitable area, dig, and then she's back in the ocean. Also, one thing we do, as in a lot of our sites are extremely rocky, and we actually make sure she makes it back to the ocean. We have had to do some rescues, getting caught on the rocks and everything. So, yeah.
Is that how you do this?
Also,
We'll watch
another
it again.
thing that I'll point out that we haven't mentioned, another way of distinguishing the difference between Honuʻea and Honuʻea is they're alternating flippers. So hawksbills alternate when they walk, where greens will synchronize. So we actually can tell the difference by their tracks if we're not there to see her physically. Sometimes it can be difficult depending on what the sand is, but I try to tell people that Honuʻea tracks, green tracks, tend to look like tank tracks. They're very choppy and very close together. And hawksbills have what we call the swoosh or the check mark, and they're alternating. So you can actually see them askew in the sand.
this is some of that evidence that we're like, sometimes it's hard to tell like where they nested, but a lot of the things that we go off is broken vegetation. Hawksbills like to nest in vegetation. It's very unique in the species. So yeah, essentially we follow, these are her in tracks right here. It's probably really hard to see from back there. And then she nested around this area with all this broken vegetation right here, and then returned right here. We've seen so many, we can tell which way they're going and all this stuff like that. And then here's another, it's recently caged, but a lot of this like vegetation over here is tore up. And then same with right here, this is all just tore up right here. So that is the easiest way for us to identify if she nested or not. Because if she didn't nest, chances are she's not gonna cause that much of a mess. But
Also, vegetation tells them it's above the high water line and that it's a good, suitable area to nest in.
this is a little game we like to call Find the Nest. Oh, wait. Hold on. It's working on my phone, but not up here. I don't know. Sorry, everyone. 1 second.
So while she does this, what a lot of people that that are on the island and everything, and a lot of community members do help us find activity. So we always just tell people, if you find tracks and broken vegetation, most likely a hawksbill nesting, because with the greens you'll see tracks, but they don't go really above the high water line. So that's a big thing, is we always tell people is tracks above the high water line and broken vegetation, most likely hawksbill nesting.
So this is like one of the instances where we talked about where they do the dramatic front flipper covering, where they'll lay, cover, like just keep crawling and cover. So this hole, we can tell that right here, this is all covering because you can't see defined tracks, and it's about the width of her front flippers. So me and my team, when we responded to this, we probed, so we dug in the sand to try to find her eggs from here to here. And then this is just a different angle from here to here. And this was probably about 15, 20 feet apart. And the nest ended up being right there. And I had the volunteers over here, and I started over here because I was like, I think I know where it's at. But I had them start over here, and yeah, they probed pretty far until we met up to this spot right here. So they're a little dramatic sometimes, and it can take 5 minutes or it can take 5+ hours to find a nest. Yes.
How do you probe a nest?
Good question. Yeah, no, actually, I don't have a section for that. So what we'll do is we tend to use our hands to just dig in the sand. So like what we'll do is we'll take off the top layer of what she might front flipper cover with, and the sand actually is very soft. So it's very weird. So I think we've just done it so many times, so we're like, we know what it feels like. Mm-hmm. But like sometimes we'll use sticks to probe too. So if we put a stick in the ground, it's gonna give through, because the sand that she puts back on and massages, like she was in that video, it's not as packed as like the sand that's brought up from the water or like on the beach already. So it's very soft and very loose sand, and that's how we find most of the eggs. It just feels very different.
Yeah, we do like hand probing, so we're very careful because a lot of people just want to start digging and start using their fingers. Mm-hmm. And fingers, if you dig fast enough, you'll poke through the eggs actually. So it's like we go very, very methodical in our digging, what we're doing. So that's why it can take us very, very long time to find our nests. Yeah.
Kelly and I feel like dug for millions of nests, so like we're pretty confident.
We dig a lot of holes.
Yeah, that's all we do is we just go to the beaches and dig holes. Okay, then we hit objective number 2. So we manage and protect nesting habitat, and we do this through planting native vegetation. We have been working on a project, a restoration project, planting naupaka, which is a coastal plant, and you see it everywhere, I feel like, but that's just maybe me. But it's this stuff right here. It's very bushy, very, I don't know how to describe it. I'm not a plant person, but
it does like, it's a dune holder, and it helps hold the sand as well. And there's a lot of different aspects that it also brings. It is a shade. The vegetation, it tells the hawksbills how far above the waterline to nest at, and also it provides shade for the nest as well, which is important, which we'll get into why that's important. But it's kind of crucial for nesting habitat. It's helping maintain our beaches and also creating nesting habitat for these hawksbills too. So that's why we're doing a lot of restoration work as well.
So our beaches are eroding away very quickly.
Yes.
This part of the beach right here and over here, last season before Tropical Storm Darby, this was full of naupaka, and that storm happened to rip off majority of it. So we have to kind of start back up from that.
Yeah, where the individual standing in that picture, the naupaka actually came up to where he's standing.
Yeah.
So that's how much got taken out.
Yeah, we're fighting every day for these beaches. And then we'll do cleanup. So the picture on the far right is actually, there was a lot of dead naupaka branches and rocks from erosion that were all over the beach. And so what we did is we picked them up and moved them in a different spot to open up the nesting habitat for the hawksbills. And then objective 3, we protect the nest and ensure hatchlings safely reach the water. So all of these pictures right here are post-nesting, and then we put nest cages over them because we have predators. We get into that, but we have mongoose, cats, rats that like to predate the nests, and we try our best to not let that happen. But yeah, we set up these nest cages and put signs on them, and just to let people know, like, hey, don't touch this. It's a protected species, and we do this thing called babysitting. So when it comes closer to the incubation being over, we'll watch for the hatchlings to come out, and that's one way that we monitor to make sure they get to the ocean safely. But these are, enjoy these pretty pictures of our beaches. Our job's really rough.
Babysitting also includes chasing crabs away too.
Yeah.
The crabs will take the hatchlings.
And then the incubation period is about 50 to 70 days for these turtles. And after that amount of time, we have hatchlings. And, So talk a little bit more about hatchlings. Unfortunately, only 1 out of 1,000 reach reproductive maturity, and that takes about 25 years for hawksbills. So it's a very long time to survive out in the ocean with everything that's thrown at them, especially in today's day. And then they do this thing called TSD, which is temperature-dependent sex determination. And so depending on the temperature in the sand, it predicts whether it's going to be male or female. So for hotter temperatures, it's going to produce more females. And then for cooler temperatures, the nest is going to produce more males. But a lot of times, more males are going to be at the bottom of the nest because that's the coolest part of the nest. But yeah, that's a little cool fact about that. And then another thing is hatchlings imprint on the beaches that they're born at. So once they do reach reproductive maturity, they'll come back in the area of, sometimes it's the same exact beach, sometimes it's very close, but and then they'll nest on that beach. So it's very cool to see. And we're about right at that time, like the project's been going on for 30 years, that we're probably getting new moms that were hatchlings when the project started, which is really cool to think about. But we don't know that, but 30 years, like, it's pretty much that. But yeah. Sometimes we're not oh yeah, go ahead.
Were you flipper tagging 30 years ago?
Yeah, we started in 1991.
Yeah. Those moms. We actually had a mom this season that was tagged in 91,
Wow.
right?
93.
93, yes. It was the 14th turtle that this project tagged. We had her come back this season, which is really cool to see.
Yeah.
I mean, 25 years is such a long time for development.
Yeah.
So do some of these turtles come back and then find like a cement?
Yeah, no, I think that's happening on Turn Island, is it what?
Yeah, in the Northwest Trends, yeah. So that's like a huge thing because our beaches were, especially the southern coast, it's kind of known for not having a lot of development, right? And so there's always that risk of if there is some sort of development, these turtles are going to come back to something like that. Especially lighting is a huge issue for us. Some of our beaches have some buildings and some public housing units that the lights are very distracting. So that's like a huge concern because not only is like, erosion, which is a natural process as well. But yeah, development is like a huge issue that we are having to, fight back with. Like, yeah, there's a lot of that. So that's the thing too, is 25 years from now, what is this island going to look like? What is everything going to look like? So it's very good point of that. So yes, that is a huge concern, especially since 90% of the Hawaiian hawksbills are nesting on this island. So that's why this island specifically is very crucial for the nesting habitat. We have a few that come up on Maui, but yeah, 90% are on this island as well.
Around the whole island or just on the side?
Specifically the southern coast, we've only had a few, like 2 nests on the northern side. But so yeah, primarily, but that also we are wanting to do more because these are such pocket beaches. We think there might be other nesting areas, but all of our sites are extremely remote. We have to hike very far, which we'll get into and all of that. But yeah, it's these pocket beaches. So we're hoping they're actually still nesting in some areas we don't know about. But yeah, it ends up being we can't get to most of these sites.
Yeah. This species of sea turtle is severely understudied, and it's just because the work is very hard, and it's hard, like she said, to get to these sites, and we just don't know what we don't know. Yeah. But we're trying to learn more, and it's been a 30-year project, so we're trying to keep building it. But back to the hatchlings. So sometimes we're not there when these nests go out, and the only way we can tell is by their tracks. So this one's a lot easier to see on this white sand. You can see all the flipper marks and the tracks, and the nest was actually up here. We always try to estimate how many if it was a main emergence, and this technically would be considered a main emergence because there's over 50 tracks that we can estimate. This one's a little bit harder to tell, but you can kind of see the downward slope and the lines right here. But then this is another nest that emerged that we weren't there to witness, but we know there's a nest there now. And a lot of times that we go to these beaches, we have surprise nests everywhere. We think we documented all of them, but then the turtles will come up because we can't be out there all the time. So we have a lot of things we call surprise nests, and we just walk out to the beaches and just see hundreds of hatchling tracks, and we have to find where everything came from, and we are very good at investigating.
Do you ever have to dig up the eggs and incubate them in a facility?
No, so not on this island. We're not doing it because it's something that is being talked of, but it comes down to a lot of our sites are just so remote. We would basically have to have some sort of helicopter to take them out because our beaches are eroding, and trying to have a facility on site is very challenging.
Yeah.
And so that's where this project, we're really working on trying to find that next step because our beaches are disappearing, and we're running into one of our most popular nesting sites is there's a lot of females nesting in one particular spot. So now it's turning into overcrowding, and we're having females digging the nest up and everything. So
and we put nest cages on, but they're so strong they rip them right off very easily.
Yeah. So some of these sites we can't even put our nest cages on because it is just nests on top of each other. But it is something that we're looking at as a possibility, but it's turning into a lot of our sites are just disappearing right now.
And there's no room for even to have something out there. It's very unfortunate because we would like to save as many as we can, but sometimes it just comes down to saving what we can and just letting nature take its course for the ones that can. So after these main emergences, we do these things called excavations and inventories. So we do this about our permit calls for 24 hours after the last activity from the nest. So what we do is we'll dig up the eggs, the hatched eggs, and the eggs that didn't hatch, and the occasional stranded hatchling in the chamber. So yeah, we dig up these contents and we sort them out, and we can calculate nest success and just how well each nest does producing hatchlings, live hatchlings, and we saved the little stranded guys. But these are pictures of our interns this season. We actually just started getting into our hatchling season. So I think last week, 2 weeks ago, we had our first nest hatch out. So we're making that transition into hatchling season.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a picture that I took last season. These eggs right here were all eggs that didn't hatch and didn't incubate. Yeah, the black sand beaches are brutal here. They're very hot. So that's why it's really important for them to nest under that vegetation because it blocks the heat. But this little guy was like one of the only ones to make it out of like all of these. So it's very disheartening to see, but you know, it just shows what we can improve on or what beaches need work and you know how to make it better. And that's why we're dipping into that restoration area at this specific beach to build more or to grow more alpaca and build a more suitable habitat. And then when we do find live ones, we let them crawl out. It's very good for their motor skills and it makes them a lot stronger for when they actually do have to swim in the ocean and survive. So we'll just let them crawl around for a little bit, and then once we think, we place them in a bucket afterwards. That way we can release them together because turtles do this thing where they'll emerge together and they do it in a safety in numbers thing. That way, like if we release them one at a time and let them all go out individually, they'll just get picked off by predators very easily. So if we release them all together at the same time, there's less likely of a chance for that to happen. So that's why we put them in a bucket. But they're only in there for maybe about 10, 15 minutes, not too long. And we shade them so they don't bake in the sun. But yeah, so we released the stranded hatchlings. There was only a couple in that nest, so it wasn't like anything. But yeah, so like we'll release them all together like this. Safety in numbers.
Yeah, so our next objective is our control of non-native predators. So this is actually, we set up a game camera just on one specific site because this one nest kept getting dug up by mongoose. And so actually this is the same picture. So mongoose were originally brought to get rid of the rats, but they come out during the day, the rats are at night. So these nests are getting hit both day and night. So mongoose tend to find them, dig them up, expose that nest, and then the rats come in at night and continue predating that nest. And so that's why those nest cages are very vital for what we're doing because it's helping protect the nest from non-native predators. And then also we're doing public promotion as well because a lot of people do know of our project, but not exactly what we do and what it takes for us to do our project. So we're trying to do a lot more public outreach and also, you know, taking people to some of our sites and education as well.
So to dive a little more into the project and how we prepare for our seasons coming up, there's so much that we do. But in the off season, we spend a lot of time on resupplying our gear and our equipment. A lot of our equipment needs to be flown out because we are so remote that we can't take it in any other way. We spend a lot of time hiring our new volunteers and trying to, you know, make a good team.
Takes a village.
Yeah. We do beach cleanups, like we remove the palm fronds. I think I spelled palm frond. Rocks and garbage from the beach. We do a lot of outreach for that, and then also we just do it out of our own leisure, I guess. And then restoration. In the wet season, it's a lot easier to work with these plants during the wet season. So that's our off season. But yeah, so this is a video. This was actually taken a couple days ago. We had to get more water flown out to one of our camping areas because we were running low. These people that fly these helicopters are good. Like he just dropped it right where it needed to be. It was crazy. But yeah, we fly out a lot of our gear because it's so remote. Okay.
Yes.
So,
oh, go ahead.
Majority of our work is camping. So we occasionally will go out to the beaches day by day, but we spend most of our time camping. And that is about 4 to 6 nights a week at these beaches. There are no amenities. We sleep under a pipe tent with a tarp and cots. And we bring out a propane stove and water, and that's about it. So it's very primitive compared to a lot of other camping programs, I feel like. And then we just keep our food in these Home Depot buckets because the rats like the food as much as we do. So that's pretty much what our camping setups look like.
And we also have to take naps during the day because we're up all night.
Yeah, we're up. Our monitoring starts from 5 p.m. to 6 a.m., sometimes longer if we do have turtles on the beach. So then, yeah, we stay up till 6, try to nap until it's too hot to nap, which is around 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. And then we're up the rest of the day trapping, restoration. So we don't sleep a lot, but
yes,
it's still a lot of fun.
Not for the people that need a lot of sleep.
Yeah. So getting to our beaches, like we said, we do a lot of hiking, and this is the hiking portion of it. Maybe. So one of our beaches, it's about a 20-mile round trip backpacking hike. So we'll go out there, we'll take all of our supplies out, like our personal supplies, and we'll stay there for about a week and then come back out. And like I said, it's about 20 miles, and then it's up over dry grass plains and lava, as you can see right here. Like, this is what we're hiking on. It's just these open fields, lava fields over the and it's a lot of fun, but it gets very hot very quickly. Yes.
So a lot of these places seem very remote. How did you find that these were nesting sites in the first place?
Good question.
Yeah, so at the beginning, they actually were doing just random surveys along the southern coast. So that started in, I think they first discovered the first nest within the national park in 1988. And they actually thought it was originally pigs. And come to find out, it was because they found hatchlings later on. It's actually hawksbill nesting. And so after that, they did surveys along the coast just to mark where they thought potential nesting habitat has been. And so our surveys have grown over the years. Some of our sites are now insanely popular on nesting females, which at the very beginning, probably first 20 years, we weren't even monitoring barely at all. So a lot of our sites are growing, as in where we're focusing on to survey. Because like I said earlier, it's a lot of pocket beaches, and it ends up being somebody's like, I think these are turtle tracks. And then we go out to some of these sites we don't even know of. Even right now, we have actually a potential new site from that Darby storm. It kind of opened up a new area to one of our sites. So we've actually seen some hawksbill tracks there. No nesting attempts, but it's kind of interesting in that the fact that this island's changing so much constantly that these surveys of us going out and also looking at these sites too, it's kind of ever changing. And so, in the past, we've been focused on one site, and then now it's starting to get more and multiply, getting a lot more sites that we have to monitor. So
one of my favorite activities is just pulling up the satellite maps and just looking at sand along the coast.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's
We'll
this?
Google
What's
map
this?
and,
What's this?
that looks like a good nesting area.
It's definitely become a lot easier.
How to get down there? It's just sheer cliff face.
Yeah.
So
good.
Do you guys not use boats?
No, we talk about it all the time. I think a boat would be extremely helpful, but we'd have to collaborate with somebody on that.
Yeah.
As far as finding the nests in these spots, I think everyone's just been hiking, or just a lot of the people are leisurely down at these beaches, and then they see it and then call us, and that's how we've grown these nesting sites.
Yeah. As well as potential, we've been talking about drones as well.
Drones,
I think using drones just to be able to see tracks on the beach could definitely open up a lot of doors for us.
Yeah, it's to find people to collaborate and do this with us, because it's a lot of money. But yeah, here's some more pictures of us hiking over this beautiful rocky terrain. Yeah, it's great. This is my favorite part of the job. It's just going and hiking. The next part, getting to our beaches, is the driving. So we drive over all of the lava, and a lot of our sites we have to access through private land.
State, federal.
Yeah, so we work with a lot of people to access these beaches. So, but a lot of our beaches, driving down, is just it looks like this, but it actually looks a lot worse than this. This picture is just very deceiving. But we are very well trained on how to drive these roads, just because they put a lot of wear and tear on your vehicles. And if we drove these very irresponsibly, we'd probably go through a vehicle a season. But we actually just traded this in this season, a month ago.
Yeah.
We had this for 10 years, this Jeep. And honestly, I think it could have stayed, but they didn't want to do that. But yeah, so driving some of these, it takes about 3 hours to drive to our beaches.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time in the car.
We're either driving or we're hiking.
Yeah. So talk about a little bit of threats to the turtles. A lot of marine debris, so we'll pick up a lot of it, but we'll actually get it flown out too when we pick up such like a crazy amount. Were you there?
Yeah, I think this one we ended up flying out about 200 pounds worth of marine debris, and that was just collected in one season. So it varies, but it's definitely a huge problem, especially when entanglement. And also, we'll actually dig nests and we'll actually find even more debris within the nest too. So marine debris is a big thing.
And then natural threats that we faced last season. This was from Tropical Storm Darby. This is a grown man right here. So this was taller than him. This is about an 8-foot scarp that was created. So turtles couldn't access the beach anymore after that storm last July. So this is what the beach looked like before, nice and flat the whole way up, and then just like that. So we were actually really nervous for Calvin, but it ended up being great. All of our beaches are fine.
Yeah.
And then some threats that weren't listed here, like we talked about the predators, and then we talk about in the water sharks, especially once they hit adulthood. They're still predated on by sharks and boats, unfortunately. And sea turtles don't have it easy, and we try our best to, do what we can for them. And
Yes.
What do you do with the volunteers when the tropical storm is coming? Do they evacuate and go back to town?
Yes.
Yeah. We
took all of our camping, we took everything down in preparation for that, and then we all just came in and out of the field and just crossed our fingers because, especially with last year with Darby, we were expecting to lose everything. So
and we were very relieved when we came out and there was like nothing happened this season. But we're very lucky that a lot of times we get enough of a heads up from the park officials because they're tracking that stuff like crazy. So we have enough time to prepare and to get people out, because if they are out in these beaches where they have to hike, where it takes like 5 hours to get out, like we let them know as soon as possible. And it's pretty much just evacuate, because we not only do we deal with the storms and the tropical depressions, but we deal with earthquakes, tsunamis. Very scary. There have been times where we're sleeping on the beach, and last season I felt an earthquake, and it was a 5, but we were right at the epicenter, and we were right on the coast. So we all jumped out of our cots, got in the truck or the Jeep, and just drove out as fast as we could, because we couldn't tell at the time, but it felt strong enough where we're like, this could be a localized tsunami. So, and then obviously the volcano. We've been out in the field when the volcano's erupting, and luckily nothing's ever came our way, but that's just another threat that we have to look out for. And the SO2 levels, we have to check those daily, because we can't hike and be outside if they're in dangerous levels. What else? Hiking over the lava, people trip and fall, gashes all over their legs all the time. If our volunteers are walking around with like cuts all over their legs all the time, we look like we beat them up, but we don't. So not only threats to the turtles, but threats to us. We deal with a lot daily. So the general question you all are having probably is, how are they doing? And this was actually published by Alexander Gauss. He works for NOAA. Judging by this, as the years are going on, we're seeing more remigrants and neophytes returning, and we're seeing a big spike in the neophytes, which is really, really cool to see. Like I said, some of these turtles, like I guess that we're getting now, like could be the hatchlings that were released or hatched like 30 years ago, or 20 years ago. It's really cool to see. So they're doing good. It's a very gradual increase, but there is an increase in the population. But that could also be due to our monitoring efforts also being heightened, because they're not monitoring the beaches like we are now. So when you are visiting nesting beaches, how can you make sure the Honuʻea are doing well? We recommend, like we said before, no white light. If you do have to use light, we recommend red, an LED red light. That's the first color to disappear under the ocean. And the turtles, all sea turtles, they can't how do I say this?
See.
Yeah, they can't receive or understand the wavelength of the red light, so they're pretty much blind to it. Not blind to it, but it doesn't disorient them like white light does. So when turtles are done nesting or when they come up to nest, they're looking for a dark horizon for the nesting, and if they see white lights up on like the sand or past the dunes, they'll think that that's the ocean compared to the sky. They're always looking for the brightest horizon, so they'll turn around and be disoriented and go back and evidently like not nest. And then as for hatchlings, they're also looking for the brightest horizon. So if they see a big bright light behind them when they hatch, they're going to go backwards towards that light. So white light is not good. Pick up your trash. This is pretty self-explanatory. Practice leave no trace. Just keep the beaches clean for not only turtles, but other people, other wildlife, you know.
Also, like beach equipment, some people just leave like full-on campsites sometimes, and that's actually like that's blocking nesting habitat too.
Yeah.
So we've had to pick up a lot of just like left things on the beach as well.
Yeah. Fill in your deep holes. Sometimes I know kids like to dig these giant holes on the beach, but we haven't had instances, but there's been instances, you know, worldwide where turtles fall in and they just can't get out and they die. Like Kelly said, take your equipment with you. Turtles can get lodged underneath your beach equipment or your camping equipment. And also, don't drive on the beach. We have a lot of beaches that like are impossible to drive on, but people drive on them, and
Yeah.
they're just prone to running over hatchlings and llamas. We don't want that to happen. We both worked at a beach where driving is legal, and it's very sad.
Yeah.
So effort. We talk about everything that we're doing, and you know, is it working? Is it making a difference? Like we said, we monitored 13 different beaches at night and day. We're collecting data, and we put this is probably on the lower end, but we put about 50 hours a week in. And I think this is on the lower end. We're probably doing more like 60 or 70. But while we're doing this consistent monitoring at these active sites, it allows us to understand the nesting population more, which is our main priority, is to know these nesting populations. And this just kind of shows that, you know, with more checking of the beaches and stuff, we have an increase of nests and turtles and stuff. So it makes sense. But yeah. With all that effort and work that we do, we still like to have a good time. So these are our interns. We've had the best time with them this season, and they put in a lot of work. But
Very much sleep deprived.
yeah. But we still like to have fun. Now, probably what you all have been waiting for this whole time, Rocket Girl. You can talk about Rocket Girl.
Yeah, so Rocket Girl, she was originally seen on Maui. She has been up there and been documented. I believe she's one of the most documented on pictures and videos.
She's the most photogenic.
Yeah, and she came to the most photogenic site as well. And so we actually received a call from the Maui team that said, hey, we actually satellite tagged this female particularly, and we actually are seeing her descend down to Big Island. So she's coming down to nest. So we were in collaboration, constantly trying to figure out where we think she was coming up. We actually found out that she's been hanging around Honuʻea Beach, and
It's
so
a very popular beach.
yes,
for people.
it's our most easy access beach out of any of other sites.
And we let other people monitor the easy ones.
Yeah, we have a crew of local volunteers that help us monitor the site, because we do have 13 others that are extremely remote. But we were finding out that she was hanging out in this area, and so we just kind of really honed in and focused in, and we got the first call. And this is when we found her first nest, and it took us 5 hours to find that nest. And so she did the great job of camouflage and everything. And then about 19 days later, she came back and did another nest. And then she just nested again. So now there's 3 nests from Rocket Girl, who's from Maui. So it's actually really amazing and great, because this is like one of those times that we get to see that journey, because I think she's been documented since like 2015. And so it's like really cool that, you know, it took her that long. Now she's reached maturity to come back and start laying eggs and everything. So Rocket Girl is super exciting. And we're still monitoring her, and yeah, she's still kind of hanging around right now, which is why it's also important for us to get these satellite tags. It gives us a lot of information because we aren't exactly sure where they're going, what they're doing, especially in this nesting intervals. Like, where are they going to forage? Are they just hanging out? So that she's giving us a lot of information, and it's like really exciting to kind of see what the Maui team's going to find out from all of this. So
yeah. And then for those that you don't know how satellite tag works, so we'll put this on the highest point on her carapace. So every time she surfaces, it pings her location, which is really cool. But the unfortunate thing about her nesting here is, like we said, it's our most populated beach by people, and people camp on this beach all night long. And we haven't been able to take any pictures or anything of her just because this area is not the safest place to camp for us. So that's the unfortunate thing about it. But we've been there to find her nests, and this is the house that we were talking about. And actually, this wall is illegal. We actually just got it. We just went through the city and got this wall pushed back.
Yeah, they've actually exposed the Szympruch now.
Yeah.
And the last time she came up, she actually went in there and did try to nest in that area. So, yeah, having this available to her is like super crucial.
Yeah.
Especially since this was particularly with Calvin coming, we were really worried that this was going to get impacted her nest for.
Yeah. And then these people will leave their lights on a lot.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually going out. This nest is actually about to hatch out soon, so we're gonna go out and like prep the area and like wrap it like with tarp and stuff, like a black tarp, so the hatchlings can't see that house light, and try to go towards the ocean. Because, like I said, there's a lot of lights on at this beach just by campers and the house. But yeah, this is Rocket Girl's story. We wish we had more information, but unfortunately, Punaluu is just, they have a lot of overnight campers, and it's not the most ideal place to be staying overnight. Especially we're all women. A little scary. But I think that's about all we have. We just want to say mahalo for having us, and here's a little video of these hatchlings going out to the water. This was a couple days ago. We did an excavation and we found 10 stragglers, and yeah, so we got to release them all together. And then that's our QR code for Instagram if you want to follow us. We have Instagram. We try to post a lot, but we're kind of busy sometimes. So.
Wi-Fi is not so good.
That's all we have. Any questions? Yes.
What is the nest success rate that you guys find?
Good question. That varies by beach. Kamehame,
Yeah.
one of our beaches, the black sand beaches, that is dealing with the erosion, that there's not much vegetation, we're having significantly lower nest success rates because they're exposed to the sun. There's no vegetation. It's just that black sand, it just cooks. And some of these eggs, literally, they just get cooked.
Also predation.
Yeah, predation's worse.
This site specifically, we call it kind of our poster child for all of the things that are against hawksbills. And yeah, so this beach specifically, we're seeing lower counts just because now, especially that alpaca is all gone. We're very interested to see how this season is going to go.
So as of right now, we did our first inventory at that beach, and it wasn't the best.
Great one.
But at our other beaches, especially the ones with the lighter sand, we've had some pretty good numbers so far. We've only had 3 nests hatch out so far this season.
Yeah.
So 4.
Oh yeah.
So we're still building, but historically or previously, one of our beaches is just awful because it's just so hot and it's facing.
It just has multiple factors, yeah, and so that's why it's also extremely important for us to get these numbers to understand what's going on. So if we're able to get more information on the temperature within the nest and figuring out like if it really is a huge difference between black sand versus white sand versus, black sand's maybe producing more females. Maybe that's why these black sand beaches are more popular because they are creating more females versus our white sands. We might be getting a good proportion, but are we strictly just producing females? So this is like a lot of research is needed for this project, and so these are a lot of the questions we're wanting to know and understand more fully. So
yeah, we've been a data collection project for a very long time, and I think people are now starting to want to ask more questions and understand why things are happening, which we're all for. We're really excited. But yeah, they just released a paper last year of the monitoring efforts and the population and how it's slightly increasing. But yeah.
But we need more consistent monitoring because I think we don't have a full understanding of our nesting sites and how many females are nesting on this island.
But when there's only 8 of us, it's very hard to do.
Yeah, in the past they've had about like 10 to 15 volunteers, and since 2018, which was the eruption, we haven't fully recovered on a staff scale. And so we've been doing about 4 to 6 people for the entire season, basically since 2018. So that's also a huge impact on us as well. Yes.
I have 2 questions. How can you tell the difference in the water between the hawksbill and then like a regular green turtle?
Like the difference?
Yeah, so in the water, you're gonna see a more pronounced beak for a hawksbill, and then they have those 4 prefrontal scales, and then a green, very blunt, very flat beak, and the 2 prefrontal scales. And then another way you can tell is their shells. So on their carapace, their scutes, which are like the scales that make up the scute. Hawksbills are going to be overlapping, kind of like a roof shingle. And then greens, they're going to be like flushed with one another. It's very hard to see, but if you are close enough, you can kind of see an overlap on those scutes. That's another sign that it's a hawksbill. And what else? They have
the juveniles on hawksbills. They do have serrated edges
on their shells.
Yeah, on the sides of their shells. But once they reach adulthood, all of our females, we think they've been foraging so much it wears them down. So a lot of the females actually don't really have great serrated edges. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
The second question I have is how disturbing is it for the turtle, just hawksbill or other, when there's like snorkelers around where they're just kind of like, eating on the rocks, in the water, like, is that disturbing? Does it seem like they don't really care? I don't know.
I think it's individual based. We don't spend a lot of time in the water with them. I don't spend any time in the water with them. Who am I kidding? I'd love to see a hawksbill in the water, but I think it's down to the individual for sure. I don't recommend snorkeling near them, but I know that a lot of people's programs are based on facial scale identification, which requires you to like not get super close, but like zoom in enough to where you can see it. And I think it all just comes down to the individual. Some of them are super skittish and some of them probably don't care. That's a great question for Cheryl King.
But also like,
is that disturbing their ability to like eat?
It could,
Right,
it very well could. Yeah.
And hawksbills tend to be more skittish anyway on
even on land.
Even on land.
Yeah, we try to keep our distance when they're on land.
But they're also insanely rare to see. So a lot of people that are scuba diving or snorkeling, they're tending to see greens more than the hawksbills just because they are so rare.
Have you guys ever witnessed a hawksbill basking like a green does?
No. Because one of the things is that if we do see a hawksbill that is not nesting, that is on the beach, there's most likely something wrong with it.
Okay.
And so the basking behavior is specific to the greens, and it's only in a couple of areas around the world. So that's why here it's really unique.
But you've never seen one do it?
No. Okay. But it could be really cool. It could be, who knows, a learned behavior or not. Like if a hawksbill sees a green doing it.
There's like so many greens and it's such a dominant behavior here on the island. I'm wondering if they ever, people have told me that they do it at Honolulu, but
yes.
No.
Yeah.
We hope not.
Hawksbills, no, but the greens, yes.
Yeah.
But
we
it's
hope
really
not.
funny, like we were just talking with the crew earlier about greens that are staying overnight. And that's like super interesting they're just coming up and sleeping all night.
Mm-hmm.
We've been documenting them that actually like spending most of the night on the beach as well. So,
that's cool.
Yeah.
I have seen that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was curious about Rocket Girl, more specifically green nest behavior. Is that common with hawksbills?
Yeah. So they'll occasionally, so we like to like put it up in the higher numbers, but they occasionally nest 3 to 5 or 6, depending on the female. Mm-hmm. If she has a lot of resources available, they could output a lot of nests, or how much they've actually mated. But because turtles can actually hold sperm and stuff, so then they can. A lot of clutches have multiple dads or males genetically. But yeah, 3 is definitely the sweet spot for hawksbills. Yeah. A lot of our turtles are laying at least 3 nests a season. Yeah.
And is the season, maybe I missed it, is it year round?
No, it's from May to December.
And one of your slides, it looked like she was potentially nesting in September, but you said you have hatchlings now?
Yeah, so we have a combination of hatchlings and moms. Like right now, we definitely have moms still coming up, and then we have hatchlings emerging, and it becomes chaotic.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. But it's also our season's starting to get almost year round.
Yeah.
There's been a couple of years we've actually had adult tracks in December. We've also, we start monitoring in May, but we've had it even like really early May. So it's starting to seem like we might have to start doing a lot year round, because we also had an olive ridley nest, which is another species of turtles that nested, and that nest was in February. I remember getting the call and I was like, what?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like our season is tending to get grow a little bit. But yeah, our sweet spots are June, July, August is usually our peak season
For moms.
for activity.
Have you guys witnessed any of the hybrid hawksbills?
I haven't seen any.
We have not, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But it's definitely, that's something we do go through. We're looking at not only deformities in the nest as well, but yeah, it's
But
definitely
in
a
your
possibility.
nesting females, they all look like they're legit.
Yeah.
100% hawksbills?
Yeah, they all
Yeah.
pass. They're all
Yeah.
hawksbills. No,
Do you
but
get greens coming up too on your site or no?
We've only
To
had
nest?
one green documented on this island.
Okay.
nesting.
Nesting, yeah, nesting.
And it's at Honuʻea. What year? 2010?
I think it's 2 weeks, so.
But
Yeah.
where was the Ridley?
Ridley is at Kauai.
Where's that? That's
It's
south?
so it's in between. It's Honuʻea. It's a little bit farther. Oh my gosh, direction.
I'd probably say it's like
So
it's
you
about
come in
5
and-
miles southeast or southwest of Hulu.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Neat.
yeah. A lot of people surf there. It's a big surfing spot.
And we are seeing a little bit more of olive ridleys nesting within the Hawaiian Islands too.
They're starting.
So it's
So
also-
I've heard there's a couple in Maui that have nested.
They're starting to like the discussion starting on, do we consider them a nesting species on the Hawaiian Islands versus just hawksbills and greens? They're starting to have that conversation where maybe we should start considering olive ridleys a nesting species.
Did you follow that nest through and do a excavation as
We
well?
did, yeah. I actually got to excavate it, and it was coming right before the storm, so we had to do it quickly. So we did do that one. It was super successful.
Cool.
And then afterwards, we did try to go back and try to see if there was other nests, but probably too much time's passed. And where she nested too, it's extremely rocky, so there's no way that anyone would have seen her tracks. We would have had to have been there to see her nest. And the story behind that one is we actually got a family. There was 2 boys that were playing football, and the boys were like, "Why are these rocks moving?" And it was hatchlings coming out of the ground.
Oh,
So
man.
yeah,
Wow.
it was kind of, yeah, it was really lucky that they were there, because we probably would have never.
We didn't
Never
observe
know.
the mom.
Yeah.
We only saw the hatchlings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how you identified them?
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
even the hatchlings look really similar between
Right.
hawksbills and ridleys.
Mhm,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because we count the scoots.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's very cool. I wasn't there for it. I wasn't
Yeah.
here yet, but I saw a lot of pictures and
Yeah, there was
I've asked so
pictures,
many
and once I
questions.
got there, I just remember the family talking, and I was looking, and I was like, just like distracted, and then there was a picture that was going around, circling around, and somebody was like, "It's not a hawksbill," and I was like, "Wait a minute," and I got really close, and yeah, it was confirmed it was olive ridleys.
Wow.
Super exciting. But yeah.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yes.
Even though the nestings in Kaʻu, what about the range of the adults? Where are they swimming? Are they just staying near there, or do they?
Yeah, that's the great question of why we're trying to do a lot more satellite tags. So we're really just observing them being able to forage. They're mostly foraging in Maui, but like what they're doing in the in-between of their nesting, that's something we're trying to figure out more and understand more. Are they, like, where are they going to forage? Are they kind of just hanging around the coast? Like, what are they doing? So that's something we're really trying to put more research into, is seeing what they're doing that nesting period.
And what we've kind of observed, even just from Rocket Girl's short time being here, she tends to hang around the coast, right at Honolulu. So she could be foraging in that area or just sitting and waiting. A lot of them try to reserve like their energy and just sit and be benthic for a little bit. But yeah, it's really
New
cool.
hawksbills at the harbor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had people they've
Many,
taken
many,
pictures. Yes.
many. There might be 10 to 20
Nice.
Little-
green turtles
The
versus a
juveniles?
hawksbill, but the hawksbills are large, mature,
That's fantastic.
40 or 50-year-old
Yeah.
hawksbills.
We've seen small ones there too.
Yeah.
We've had, because the other thing correlating with that too, we have had some strandings of hawksbills with like fishing wire and everything. So that's also like really like good to know that they are just like they are in that area. And that's why with our project and like hawksbills in general, there needs to be a lot more research because we're not fully understanding them as much as compared to the greens, right? So just like getting more of that information is super crucial. So that's why like you do see hawksbills taking pictures and then we send them to kind of like around as well, just so because we are trying to document them. They're very rare to see, and knowing that is like super, super important.
Yeah, there's an organization I think you can send the pictures to, and they're tracking
I have a lot of pictures.
identification.
Yeah.
A lot.
And
Yeah.
if you
Great.
find one that hasn't been identified yet, you get to name it as
Yeah.
well.
I
That's
guess it
true.
is too.
Nice. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Mhm. Yeah. No, yeah. We can give you a link to that.
Who's the organization that actually put letters and numbers on green turtle shells?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's
This
not
must
long.
be a long time ago.
At Kaʻu they do it still, and it's I think it's a combination between NOAA and the parks.
Yeah, I know Noah's definitely doing them. They did that at Honolulu at the beginning of this season too.
Yep.
They're doing that.
Dremel and
The kids in HPA do it with Mark Rice too.
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing it a lot of places. They do on the French Frigate Shoals and all everywhere. But yeah, it also helps with identification. But yeah, it's very cool stuff. We got to see them do it earlier this season. So we are not dremeling our trees. We're not qualified to
Did
do
you
this.
say that green and hawksbills sometimes harbor those?
We have not seen it. It's in other organizations like on mainland and other places. There has been, but we, as of me, and I know no documentation of it. But
Supposedly there's one in Maui.
is there?
Yeah.
If you look it up on NOAA, they do have a few that they've supposedly.
I was gonna say,
Identified.
it's
There's a book
totally
called The Book
absolutely
of Honuʻea that
possibility.
has
Yeah.
a picture of one that's.
Yeah. No, we believe it for sure.
Yeah.
We just haven't seen
I
it. Yeah.
saw a turtle at Kaʻu Bay.
Mhm.
The shell was perfectly clean, starburst pattern on all the scoots. It was heavily serrated.
Mhm.
The head was green turtle.
Yeah.
Wow.
Weird.
And
Very
I didn't have my camera.
Yeah, I was gonna take a picture.
Agree.
The young turtles have this
Yeah.
starburst
Yeah, yeah.
pattern to the green.
The green,
Yeah.
yeah,
Very,
juveniles
very-
are very, yeah.
The young turtles have that. It's
Yeah.
part of the defense mechanism, I think, because that's pretty small for green.
Okay. It was a beautiful shell.
It is. It's very possible.
Yeah.
There's a possibility.
Yeah, juveniles all on both species, their shells are very beautiful.
And serrated to keep like sharks from gulping them down so easy. It's like a defense
I see a lot of
mechanism.
small turtles in there, not serrated.
No,
And
a lot of the
shells-
turtles we've seen have been.
And their shells are not clean. This one was just
Any other questions?
like a jewel.
Yeah.
Do you ever see them changing their nesting sites, like the beach they go to?
Good question. Have you ever seen?
We've had females that have come up at other sites. Sometimes they will, because our beaches are so close together, some of them are within like not even a couple miles of each other, and the nesty behavior. And so that's something we're actually really looking into as well. Because if you go on any other sites, they're coming back to the same beaches, but those beaches are a lot larger and a lot more, more habitat for them basically, where ours are very much pocket. But a lot of our females, we are just monitoring, they're coming up to the same beach for
I'm
the
just
most
thinking
part.
with the changing environment and the
Mm-hmm.
scopes, etc. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're really hoping that they will do that if need be, not release their eggs into the water because, that can happen, unfortunately.
Yes.
But yeah, it's really cool because like we'll document a female, we'll go back to our inventory list and we'll see, we're like, oh yeah, Kamehame, oh yeah, she nests every 4 years on the dot. Like we have decades of her coming back every 4 years, every 3 years. And
so we
And
know-
is it
we know
within-
it must have happened, right? Because it always has to be a first starting location with these beaches.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it within like a few meters that she's nesting too, or is it just anywhere on that same beach?
It's just the same beach.
Yeah.
And to scale, I think our biggest beach is Punaluu, and all of our other features are probably only 30 to 50 yards long.
Yeah.
So they're very
They're
small.
very small.
And like
Not
you
a
said,
lot of options on the beach.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's really cool to see that some of them are just so specific in their behaviors, and they're a lot smarter than I think some people tend to think. But yeah, it's really cool to see.
Does El Nino affect the success rate of the nest?
It very much can. Yeah, we're really nervous for the rest of the season because they're expecting a lot more storms, and the oceans are starting to get a little bit warmer. This El Nino is going to be crazy, but even just climate change is going to be, detrimental for our shores. Just these waters are getting warmer and going to produce more of these storms. So it very much can, and it's just something that once it happens, we just have to have a plan of action on how we're going to, build up from it. There's no stopping it.
And we do have options of translocating a nest, but there is a very short window of being able to do that. So it's also another reason it's really crucial for us to be there when they are nesting. Because if we're able to translocate it, we have a very short window to do it safely. And because if we wait too long, we can actually, when translocating the egg, if you shift it just any sort of way, they'll actually detach the embryo. So that also risks of that. So that's why we try to keep them up high if they do tend to nest low. For example, that storm, we had a few females that could not access the beach anymore, and they just ended up digging right at the bottom of those erosion lines. So we had to move those nests because there was no way they're going to survive. So, but yeah, water is definitely, the warm waters, most likely it'll definitely have an impact.
Do you move eggs in that case?
Yes, yeah. We will translocate nests if that's the case, but there is like a very short window to safely do that.
It's a very tedious procedure.
Yes.
You can't orientate the eggs anyway. You have to keep the same orientation of what you pulled them out, and you have to layer them. So I put the top on the bottom, and that you make sure that the eggs that were on top end up back on top. And it's a very tedious procedure that takes a very long time and a very steady hand.
Yes.
And like I said, that one when we moved 239 eggs, it was brutal.
Yeah.
It was so bad. My back hurt so bad.
How deep are the turtles nesting? Like, what is the nest chamber depth usually?
So
It's around 50 centimeters.
Yeah.
60.
It does range because also we're seeing that sometimes they don't dig deep enough and they actually are overfilling their
That
nest.
was my next question.
Yeah.
No,
And
we've
that's
seen a lot of
200
turtles.
eggs is
Yeah.
a lot of eggs. It has to be a huge
Yeah,
nest to get
it's-
200 eggs in there.
Exactly.
Sometimes I think they underestimate how deep they dig.
I think
There
the
has been
flippers can
times-
only get so far.
Right.
too.
Typically there's 100, and that's a huge nest.
That's why-
200 is huge.
Yeah, it's crazy
And
to me
then-
to think that, because I worked with species that are a lot bigger
Yeah.
and then also
They can
way
dig,
less eggs. And the egg size really isn't that, at least between the loggerheads that I worked with and then these, the egg sizes, from what I can remember, like they're not like that much bigger than one another. So it's very, I don't know, it's really weird
But a
to see
Hawksbill
that.
egg would be smaller than any other.
The
You get
Kemps.
200
Yeah,
in there?
yeah.
Oh, well, that's the thing is, well, we worked with Kemps, and I think that the eggs from the Kempsford leaves were, I can notice a difference, I think, between the two, because I remember
In Mexico or in Texas?
I worked with them in Texas, Padre. Yeah. There's
Do they lay
that's
spacers at all, or just all egg?
Very,
Hawksbills?
very few.
Yeah.
I've only seen like very, very few.
I think I saw a couple last season.
Yeah.
Spacer eggs.
Yeah.
You guys ever find a remora in the hole?
Remora.
You know,
like a
remora that
fish?
goes up with the turtle,
The
and then
sucker fish?
we used to work with turtles a lot, and we get the odd remora. You're digging out eggs.
Mm-mm.
And there'd be a
No,
remora in there that's fallen off of the turtle, and they bury it in the
I
hole.
haven't.
No,
No,
we
we've
have
not seen
not.
that. That's cool.
You might get a surprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted.
What is this?
Yeah, exactly.
Just ruined it for
But no, we haven't
So
seen
now we
that.
know where it came from.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
yeah, we'll actually have an idea of when
Yeah.
that happens.
But one thing that's impacting, because they are shallow nesters, we'll find the eggs pretty close to the surface, which is also why predation is like a huge
Right.
thing. It doesn't take much for the
They're
monkeys
laying
to
too
find
many
them.
eggs. 200 eggs
Yeah,
is a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah, it really
I
is.
can't even imagine how that works.
I don't even know
just
how
watched a bream lay 50 eggs, and it came right to the surface.
Yeah.
And they could only dig so much, so it was.
Yeah.
They were basically on the surface, and she covered it with some coral.
Right, yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
No, there's been a few occasions where she goes to cover and she's like moving. There's eggs that are moving, and I grab them and put them in a safe spot, and then when she leaves, I'll dig it back up and just put them with the other ones.
Yeah.
And
Or we give her sand. We're like, no, don't take the rocks. Give the sand. To the
yeah,
salmon.
she's covering with the and like,
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Really is, yeah.
Yeah, they definitely overflow their nests.
But if you
It's
get a
concerning.
successful nest, you have a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
exactly.
sometimes you get over 100 turtles coming out of a nest.
The team that just went out a couple days ago, they observed 163 hatchlings
Yeah.
Wow.
when
Yeah.
their nest emerged.
Yeah.
So
That's
Yeah.
incredible.
yeah, and I think that was the nest with the 239 eggs. So
So that was a successful nest.
Yeah.
it was pretty good.
Exactly,
That's really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, it was pretty good. We're gonna go over
Excited.
those calculations tomorrow.
Yeah, we are.
So if we wanted to see babies go out, would you guys recommend a spot or recommend going with you? Or how would you recommend someone who lives on the island to go and see hatchlings?
This season's a good season for that because she
Yeah.
nested at Punaluu, which is an easy access beach.
Yes.
And we do plan on promoting that publicly
Okay.
when we do the excavation.
Yeah.
So if you follow us on Instagram,
But what about the actual, them going out?
oh no, all of our beaches are super remote, and a lot of them you have to have permission to access the land.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the only thing that
So
we
Honolulu would be your only chance and you gotta deal with the riffraff.
Yeah.
pretty much, unfortunately, because we know a lot of other places do that where
Yeah.
you can nest it and
Right.
monitor, but
Right.
unfortunately here it's just
Yeah.
all of
We're
our
having
beaches are too
a lot
far
of
away.
our beaches too. We've been having a lot of ownership changes,
Uh-huh.
and so even us getting down to sometimes some of our sites have been
This season's
difficult,
been
so,
rough
yeah.
for us.
So that's why we haven't been able to really take or give opportunities for that right now because
Mhm.
it's just we're even having a hard time to get to some of these sites.
Tricky.
But there are instances where we do like to work with the public, and if you contact us and we can work something out to where maybe some days we can have a field day with people, or because we've
We're
had
trying
university
to.
students come out before. We've had people that are learning or that do have turtle experience.
We always say, do you like hiking?
Yeah.
That's a big part of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we wish that we could,
Especially this year, Punaluu is definitely going to be the best bet of
Okay.
any of that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for volunteers, what are the needs if you wanted to be a volunteer? What are you looking for as far as experience and availability and?
So for our full-time volunteers, that is a commitment based where they have to stay and they're lodged in the national park. But for local volunteers, we're looking for people that can, because we teach you on site. A lot of the local volunteers that we have don't have turtle experience, but we've built them up to it.
Yeah.
And pretty much just have a car and be able to go places. And
We're also working on a better way of getting the community involved because usually scheduling and just getting people having access and all that kind of thing is where we run into because we are trying. We really want to get the community more involved, especially with a lot of these sites. A lot of people are visiting pretty frequently, and just having people know what to look for and also to respond and everything. So this is something we're trying to build right now. It's still kind of in the works of trying to organize it. And so that's what's been difficult on a community base of volunteers and just also the access, hiking. It ends up being a lot of people are not able to sacrifice weekends because it takes so long to get to these sites. And doing day things is almost really kind of asking a lot. We have a site that we go 12 miles and it's pushing for day things where versus going out and camping. So it usually ends up being sacrificing weekends and long or during the weekdays kind of thing. So we wish our sites would say more accessible. But
I was going to add, it'd be a lot more easier if we were centralized in one area and our activity was also centralized in one area. But since we're so spread out along the coast, it's really hard to coordinate with people and have it, because we only have 2 vehicles for our project. And so it's really hard to have enough room in the vehicles. And it's something that we're building, and we really want to utilize the community because from past projects that I've worked on, just community involvement is a lot of help, and it's very important because then they also have your back. So if you're not on the beach and there's a random community member and someone's doing something wrong, we've had people step up and correct people that are standing on the turtles or messing with the turtles or throwing rocks at turtles. And So we really want to work on the community involvement for sure.
It sounds like you need a field station where you can sleep.
Yes,
You know,
that's
yeah.
It really is.
It'd be a dream. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
But yeah, I think that's.
All right, well, thank you.
Yeah,
very
thank
much.
you.
Is your Instagram info on where those flyers come from?
Sorry. So we actually can't look it, but our Instagram is just our name, and if you take one of the flyers, it has our name on it, and we're just the Hawaii Island Hawksbill Project on Instagram. And then we do also have a Facebook, but we post more on Instagram, I think, than we do Facebook.
Yeah, thank you guys for coming out.
So are you guys I'm Rachel.
Hi, Kelly.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you too.
Hi.
Karlee.
Kelleigh. I saw you guys on the poster. I was like, Karlee.
Yeah.
That must be a thing sometimes.
Yeah.
This is Ridley.
Oh, good.
We worked with Ridley's family in Costa Rica for a long time with Randall, and we know Alex.
Yeah.
We've done a little bit here at Kaʻu.
Yeah.
I worked with Mark Rice a little bit. I'm a science teacher, a middle school science teacher, and so I'm always looking for
Oh my gosh, we love doing
opportunities
that.
and things like that.
We work with
And so-
schools a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool. We had somebody from the Hawaii Wildlife Center come in
Okay.
last year, and I think she's coming again this year, but it'd be great to get more. And
Yeah.
I'm super into teaching my kids about turtles, obviously,
Right.
because I love turtles.
Yeah.
And named my kid after a turtle, you know, so. She has to love turtles too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be really neat to figure out. And I mean, the fact that the turtles are nesting in the summer, it sort of like feels like it'd be something cool to do, like a week camp trip with some students or something, you know?
Like a new field station.
Yeah.
We took out the youth rangers that are voice test.
Okay.
Yeah, the youth ranger program, which is like, they're learning to be rangers in the national park.
Collaborate.
Yeah. So we'll take them out occasionally. So we do take out younger children. Yeah. So,
Okay.
Ridley did the junior ranger thing too.
That's like her.
Junior ranger at the.
Right.
So
Right.
we need to do NAPACA donations.
I know, that was the other thing is, we're working with a grant from BWET this year. And one of the things that we're working on, Kater was the one who sort of got the grant rolling and stuff. And she's gonna be our contact and our co-teacher for it. And one of the things we were thinking is that we could do some growing of species to help replenish some sort of project. And Naupaka is something that's really pretty easy to grow, and I have some throw beds that I'm looking to do.
Do you guys have a nursery that you're?
So we've been basically borrowing, so we've been talking to some other schools. There's some other schools that are starting seeds, because I haven't been able to do seeds, because.
we can't grow them in the park. We're at 4,000 feet elevation, so
And also we can't bring in seeds into the
Yes.
park. There's like what's the word I want?
I don't know, but it's not allowed.
Quarantine.
Yeah, it's like quarantine.
Like,
Can
you
you
bring
bring
your feet
plants
clean and stuff
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
You could
So-
just do cuttings and stick them in a pot.
That's what we've been doing, because we've been rushing it. And, but yeah,
I did it midway,
seeds,
we just did cuttings and put them in a sand pot.
yeah. And so that's what we've been doing, the cutting.
Ours die. They're so
Well,
bad.
'cause right now, our problem is water. Because one of our
Oh, yeah.
things, we did get a grant for this thing, but nobody accounted for water because it's in Kaʻu and it's like, it's super dry down there. And so we've created, we don't know anything about
Well, you got fertilizer with your turtle eggs.
Yeah,
Right.
we were talking
We were
about
talking
that.
about doing
Just
that,
like,
yeah.
Because like, especially where we're trying to plant, the soil is actually just like, it's just ash. There's no nutrients, there's
Right.
nothing.
You can't
So,
breathe.
yeah,
Suffocating.
but like, yeah, Naupaka is like a huge thing, because right now we can't even get our Naupaka to survive. We've been doing the cutting, we're doing all this stuff.
But if
and
you
I'm
had some
not
like
crazy.
rooted, it would be a lot easier to replant them, I'm assuming.
That's
Yeah,
what
We
we
have to
tried.
figure out if there's some sort of regulation with the park about bringing plants from one spot to another.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
I think we tried that. And then
because they also told us that the elevation thing wasn't real. And so we actually
cool.
worked with, Nature
Totally.
Conservancy has an office in Maui. And so we were actually having them there. And then right now, we've been trying to do it on site. But us and being out there inconsistently and just like being a little water has been the biggest issue. But like, also just getting like, just like we've even been talking about getting like soil samples done out there because we get them planted, they can survive for a couple months and then they just completely die.
And we can't do anything. It's an archaeological site too.
Yeah.
So there's just a minimal amount of like
Things we can
actually do. Like
And
we're not
probably
like
space
saying-
that you can
yeah.
grow.
And so yeah, it's but like yeah, it's just and also just like getting people to the site to understand what's going on. There's I've been bringing people on this stuff, so like I know nothing about plants.
Sure.
Like, it's foreign to me. And so,
Sure.
but like we've been talking to the schools and they started doing seeds for us to hopefully get that started, and then hopefully during the wet season we were talking about doing camping thing going down, and that's why we're trying to get that more involved because I think students is where it's at, as in especially. But also, like,
That's what we
it's
did when we
perfect.
ran the project.
Uh-huh.
We got college students to come and pay to stay for a month, and they were our workers.
Yeah.
And they spent, I think it was a long time ago, but they spent like $1,000 for a month.
Yeah.
And then that covered their room and board while they
Yeah.
were there, and they were our
Yeah.
research assistants.
Yeah.
And some of
That's
them
pretty
never
much
wanted
what
to
they do
leave.
here.
Yeah. We had some that
Can I
stayed
say
there.
another one?
Yeah.
Ours are like, we never want to come back.
Yeah, we had a
We
nice
had a
little
couple-
beach house
we had a
and
couple
stuff,
of-
so it's a
We had a
little
couple of that
different,
had to run.
a little less rustic.
Yeah.
It was
Just
still
rustic,
since you
but-
swim in, you guys like, if you're gonna work all day, it sounds like you work a lot
But
of
we
days.
used to, like,
We gotta be on the
do you
street.
have a trailer